with me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to this Louie T Network exclusive. We got a trade. Doom, 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 doom. It's draft time, and we got a trade right before the draft, impacting the 2019 NFL draft, as the Seattle Seahawks, who had been looking, and it was rumored as of last week, to be moving Frank Clark, possibly seeking a first-round pick in compensation, finally got that done, moving Frank Clark to the Kansas City Chiefs in exchange for a 2019 first-round pick. Also, the two teams will swap third-rounders in 2019, and the Seahawks will receive an additional second-round pick, the second of which the Seahawks have, or excuse me, the Chiefs have in 2020. They will receive that in the deal as well. So in total, the Seahawks will receive a first rounder this year. The teams will swap their third round picks in this year's draft as well. And the Seahawks will additionally receive a 2020 second round selection from the Chiefs. And the Chiefs, they just get Frank Clark, and they get to give him a brand new deal. We'll get to Seattle in a little bit. Let's talk about the Chiefs and how they pretty much shit on Dee Ford with this deal. And they pretty much told you how they feel about Dee Ford. If you're Dee Ford, you've got to feel pretty shitty about your deal that you just signed in San Francisco, because your deal compared to the deal of DeMarcus Lawrence and now Frank Clark looks like trash, okay? Now, again, if you're happy with the money that you've gotten, then it's no reason to even feel salty about the whole situation. But I would feel more disrespected if I'm Dee Ford about the fact that you wouldn't pay me. You shipped me off to San Francisco in exchange for some compensation. And now you're going to go out and give Frank Clark, you're going to trade for him, first of all, give up compensation for him. And then you're going to come after and give him money, my money, the money you wouldn't give me. You're going to give it to him, and you're going to give him 2 times what I was asking for? Are you kidding me? So the deal that Frank Clark was able to procure from the Kansas City Chiefs is as follows: 5 years, $105 million, 105.5 to be exact million dollars, 63.5 of it guaranteed, makes him the highest paid edge rusher in the league, which is what he wanted. He said, look, I wanted to be the highest paid. I had to get more than DeMarcus Lawrence. I wasn't going to sign for anything less. The Chiefs knew that in advance of trading for him, and they gave him his deal upon trading for him. So Frank Clark is now the guy in Kansas City. And I was asking the question, who the hell is going to get... Remember, I asked this on the podcast just, 2 weeks ago? Who the hell is going to get to the quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs? All right, they have nobody on the edge. Now they do. Now, my thing is Frank Clark that much better than Dee Ford? Is this a significant upgrade? I like Frank Clark a lot. And the Chiefs have spoken. They've told you how they felt about Dee Ford, 1, by trading him, and 2, by making this deal with Frank Clark and then paying him astronomical money, the types of which they weren't looking to pay Dee Ford. So they told you how they felt about Dee Ford, and conversely how they feel about Frank Clark. Now, the question I'm asking everyone out there, if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, if you're a Chiefs fan, is this apples to apples? Are these two players similar? Is Frank Clark that much better than Dee Ford? I can give you my take on it. I don't think that there's that much of a delineation between Frank Clark and Dee Ford. I think that Frank Clark is much more better in the run game than that of Dee Ford. But if you're talking about getting to the quarterback, I think they're pretty comparable in that department, and that's what they're getting paid for. They're not getting paid to stop the run. Anybody in the league can stop the run. They're getting paid to get after the quarterback and bag quarterbacks. And to me, they're pretty comparable in that department. But if you're going to ask me where the difference in money came, I don't think it's necessarily from this guy can get to the quarterback, this guy can't. Maybe they feel like Dee Ford wasn't exactly the kind of primetime player that they needed, a guy that when the game's on the line, they can count on him to go and get the quarterback. Maybe they feel like Frank Clark is that guy, and he's shown the ability to do that. But I think they also said he's a more well-rounded player. He can stop the run, and just as well as stop the run, he can get after the quarterback, and we need that in Kansas City. And they don't have a guy. I told you. No more Tamba Hali, and he was washed anyway. No more Justin Houston, and he may be washed. We'll find out about him in Indianapolis with this 2-year deal that he signed with the Colts. And no more Dee Ford. They needed something out there. All right, Breland Speaks, That's nice. That's cute. That's funny. That's not elite. That's not stuff that you can rely on. They needed something. They're going to get it here in Frank Clark. So the biggest takeaway from this deal for me was the fact that the Chiefs pretty much told us how they felt about Dee Ford. That was alarming. Like, whoa, you went and traded for Frank Clark and gave him brand new money, and you looked at Dee Ford and said, you're not worth our time. We're going to trade you to San Francisco. That tells me all I need to know about how they felt about Dee Ford, and I am floored. All right, so that being said, and again, we already kind of knew that. We talked about that during the Dee Ford video and how the Chiefs pretty much told you how they felt by trading him, because you don't let edge rushers, elite ones at that, you don't let them walk in this league. So if you're feeling some type of way about an edge rusher and you don't think he's quite the guy that everyone else thinks he is, and you get to see him every day in your building and you know what you see and you're not sold on him, then that's what you do. You ship him off. And conversely, what does that say about Frank Clark to the Seahawks? They didn't think he was worth a big deal. They didn't think he was worthy of the kind of money the Chiefs just paid him. So what does that say if you're the Chiefs? From the perspective of Seattle, they're probably thinking, we just got your ass. He's not worth what you just paid him. We weren't going to pay him that kind of money. Are you crazy, Frank Clark? Hell no. So you can look at it from any angle you like. Everyone's got a different perspective. I'm asking Seahawks fans, is Frank Clark worth this kind of money? I'm asking Chiefs fans, are you excited? Are you feeling like this is that much of an upgrade over Dee Ford? There's a lot of questions. Leave it in the comment section. I definitely want to hear from fans of both of those teams in regards to this trade and how they feel like things played out. As for the angle of the Seattle Seahawks, I'm excited for them because you just got the Russell Wilson deal done. And so that's done. That's out of the way. That had to get done. And you look at this team now, you got 2 first-round picks. All right, I'm looking forward to you doing something along the offensive line and beefing it up. I think you're taking steps in the right direction. I think that line is starting to come together, but I still think you need that rock, that anchor up front. I don't know if you necessarily have that. And I want to see what you do, because to me, Seattle has always been nonchalant about first rounders. We'll trade out of the first round. We'll pick up more picks. That's what they do. We'll find a gem in the 5th round. We'll find an undrafted guy. We'll turn him into a corner. He used to play wide receiver, or he used to play safety. We'll turn him into a corner like they did with Trey Flowers, or not Trey Flowers, the Flowers kid out of Oklahoma State. Or we'll take J.R. Sweezy, turn him into an offensive guard. We'll take a kid out of Buffalo and turn him into an offensive guard. He was a tackle in college, defensive tackle. They do these kind of things. That's what Seattle does. So at this point now, I want to see what you do with the abundance of riches that you have in the draft now. Now you got a ton of draft capital. All right, and it's great. It's not 4 5th-round picks. I don't give a shit about that. The Seahawks seem to value the model of, hey, as many darts as we can get to throw at the board, we're hoping that a bunch of them stick. If we can throw 20 darts at the board, then we're hoping 10 of them stick. The more darts we throw at the board, the more it can stick. I'm not a big fan of that philosophy. I'm a much bigger fan of quality over quantity. I'd much rather have 8 picks and have 5 of them hit and have them be really good contributors on my team, rather than the 12-player draft and only 2 of them be contributors on my football team because I'm just throwing random darts. Give me the 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd round guys that I know are going to be hits, and then hopefully I find a hidden gem in the 5th or the 6th round and uncover that. But for the most part, the Seahawks have been one of those teams that looks to do damage in the mid to late rounds. Now they've got a bunch of early round draft capital. I'm anxious to see what they do with the amount of draft capital that they have now in place, because this is a team that I think has a couple of deficiencies that they could look to maybe fill in this draft. And this is a deep draft on the defensive side of the football. You just traded Frank Clark. Obviously, this is a deep draft for pass rusher. You're going to need to replenish that position. And this is the draft to do it if you're going to do it. And a guy late in the 1st round, I think you can get that would fit to me what Seattle is Jalen Ferguson. So I'm not here to talk draft. I just think that the Seahawks have put themselves in a great position to really bolster their football team. We thought that last year was going to be a drop-off for Seattle. They fooled all of us. They made it to the postseason. I think they're in a great position to not only get back to the postseason, but potentially challenge the Rams for what used to be theirs, NFC West supremacy. And this is a great step in that direction. If you're not going to pay Frank Clark, get something for him. They did it the right way. And now, not only did they net themselves a 1st rounder, they're going to get themselves a 2nd rounder next year, and they're going to come up a little bit closer to the front of the pack I should say, they're going to swap places with the Chiefs in the third round. So you're only losing a few spots there in the draft. So you got to feel good about this deal if you're Seattle, because you weren't going to pay Frank Clark what he was looking for anyhow. So if you ask me, both teams got what they were looking for in this deal. We'll see ultimately who ended up winning in this trade. At this point of the offseason, it's not about who wins, who loses a trade necessarily, because we don't know what Seattle's going to do with that draft pick quite yet. We won't be able to tell who wins, who loses this draft or trade, for at least 3 or 4 years. But at the end of the day, Seattle got what they wanted, which was an opportunity to replace Frank Clark with a younger, cheaper option in the 2019 NFL draft, and they're going to get a chance to do so. And the Chiefs got what they needed. They're a team ready to win right now. They were literally a quarter away from the Super Bowl last year. They're right there on the cusp of doing something. Maybe Frank Clark is the piece on the defensive side of the football that potentially puts them over the top. We will see nonetheless. I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage. It could be. Mock draft live tonight. Also, draft party on Thursday live as we break down every single pick as they happen in real time. Days 1 and 2, we will be live here on the Louie T Network. Draft party. Join me. I'll see you guys then. Have a good one. Make sure you're checking out the Louie T Network podcast as well. That is on Stitcher. It is on Apple Podcasts. It is on Google Music Play. It is on Spotify. It is on TuneIn. It is on the LouieTNetwork.net. I'm your man, Louie T. See you next time.